in Standard C, specifically, this is the place where STEM integration can really show up for the teachers, particularly because we are talking about teachers of all kinds of different disciplines, whether we're looking at an elementary teacher who's a generalist or a secondary teacher who has specific content they must teach. The sub-elements of Standard C help us think about how we work on that horizontal integration so that students see engineering both as an overall idea and how it relates to a specific content area.
Most of us in the K-12 space, we're taught about a discipline or something that we are going to be an expert in. Even in elementary school, they're generalists, but they're experts in childhood development, for instance. But when we start dealing with the engineering, teachers need help in seeing like, wait, and many times they even need help seeing something they've already done is actually an engineering experience, not maybe historically a science one.
Engineering is related to other disciplines in the pre-K-12 classrooms because engineering is by nature a mix of related content. So engineers harness many different subjects like math and science, communication, language, whatever language they speak, art, because designs must be aesthetically pleasing, social science, because lots of policy comes into play when we decide how we're going to design things, or psychology, because the products we're making for people are for people, and so we have to think about how people will use these things and whether or not they're going to like them. And they use all of these things to design and manufacture products.
For example, physics teachers for many years did this mousetrap car, which they think, oh, this is a science. And we're like, actually, no, you're manipulating variables to have a desired outcome. That's actually an engineering problem. So that's just an example of how teachers need help making connections to stuff they've already done, or the fact that any design problem has multiple connections to different areas of the K-12 curriculum. We all need help in that because of the way the system has developed. So I think that's just important to make a central part of any professional development when you're working with teachers to develop their engineering education skills.
So engineering professional development should emphasize the connections between students' engineering learning and learning other skills and content in a lot of different ways. But let's focus in on a couple of them. So first, most teachers, even our youngest ones, have been taught all of their subjects primarily in silos. So most don't have any formal training or more than maybe a week or two of engagement with engineering in their pre-service or their in-service training. So if we're going to ask teachers to integrate engineering into their classroom with students, we need to give them a chance to know about engineering, but also to experience engineering as a thought process, that integrative process, that iterative process, and they need to experience that both as a learner and think about it from a pedagogical strategy and learn it as a teacher.
Professional development for teachers related to engineering, it's really important to make concrete connections to problem solving or design thinking skills that require expertise outside of the traditional engineering. When I do professional development with teachers, I try to establish or identify a local problem. I try to do some background work before the professional development starts, find out what are some local issues. And then once we establish, hey, let's do a proposal to solve this local problem, then teachers have to identify, well, who all should we talk to? Like, what do we need to know in order to solve this problem? And when they go through that process, that's where the learning really takes place. Once teachers have an authentic experience, I think they're more likely to be able to think reflectively about how will they help their students think about expanding their own ideation space or whatever part of the engineering design process they're focusing on.
For more information, including a rubric for creating PD where engineering is a context for learning, please visit the ASC's K-12 website and look for resources.